Bienvenidos à el Shepcast. Pour le service en français, appuyez sur le 2. For Bible study in English, press 1. Boop. Non? Le 2. Et bonjour. Et notre Shepcast aujourd'hui, c'est au sujet de l'action de grâce.
Remember how we had that discussion in
You
the
said
office?
it would save time.
I did say it would save time, and I lied.
Yeah, this is
Because
deceit.
I cannot forget, or I cannot remember. I can forget. Quite
Welcome to the Fibcast.
Oh, welcome to the Amanda doesn't know how to read. Also,
In English either.
no, I don't know English. I don't know French. I don't
Yes.
know Hebrew. I don't know Greek. Are we doing Philippians or 1 Timothy?
Ooh, well, how spicy is the First Timothy passage?
Well, the 1 Timothy passage looks quite short.
Oh, well, that's usually good.
It's fine, but it's too short.
Okay, so Philippians it is then.
Yeah. Now, why wouldn't they start at verse 4? Philippians, Alex Klagus.
We'll put him up there again.
I think we should start at verse 4. Do you need me to tell you the readings, or do you?
Yeah, well, eventually. But I'll just do the Philippians one.
Okay.
Because I'm already in Philippians. I'm using Canadian Tire money to be a bookmark.
It's a good muckmark.
Yeah.
Muckmark.
Bookmark. Well, welcome to the Thanksgiving cast.
Welcome to the Give Thanks cast.
Yeah. Now, very cold take. But Thanksgiving is another one of those holidays and festivals and days off that people get where you are given time to give thanks, but you don't. But I'm not sure that people necessarily do. Also, people eat a lot on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But here's another very mild take, which is like our average meals that we eat are such an excess that like going to new levels of excess is actually kind of hard.
Yeah.
For example, yesterday, my wife sent me to the grocery store to buy apples and cucumbers and a printer ink cartridge, and we came back home with the hot chicken meal from Superstore, which is the barbecue chicken and 2 like little potato salads and a 12-pack of buns and all that stuff. I'm like, you know what? Honest to God, this is probably better than the Thanksgiving dinners they used to eat back at the turn of the century, back in like 1905 or whatever.
And it's like $10 or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah. It's so cheap. And you're like, here you go. Like, this is like a level of excess that like people would have scrimped and scraped for like all year to afford that level of excess. And here I am, I'm like, I'll just get this on the way home. That's fine. So like to get it at Thanksgiving dinner where you have like the turkey and the stuffing or dressing and the pierogies and the cabbage rolls and whatever, yam and Brussels sprouts or whatever. You've got to like, in fact, I'll go you one better and say that the big difference between Thanksgiving dinner and regular dinner is 2 things. Number 1, there's just more of it. But number 2, there's a mandatory inclusion of food nobody likes.
Well, and the thing, in my opinion, and again, this is only mine.
It's subjective.
It's subjective, very. Is that Thanksgiving and Christmas, you have like the same poultry dinner, but you add in stuffing or dressing. And that's like the only difference.
You don't just have that normally.
No.
You don't
Do
have
you?
like No.
No.
Well, it's not fair, actually. When I'm making a chicken, which I occasionally will do on principle, where I'll buy a chicken at the like a raw chicken, which doesn't make economic sense, by the way, because the cooked chickens are cheaper than the raw chickens. So like you've got to really just want to make a chicken. So I'll do that every once in a while. Our toaster oven has a rotisserie function.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But before we had that one, I would actually cook a chicken in the toaster oven. And I would stuff it with because as you know, I bake my own bread. And so what I would do is when the bread got to be kind of stale-ish, I make my own stuffing by making the breadcrumbs and the sage and the onions and the butter and the whatnot and stuff the chicken with that. But
So you wouldn't even just go by the stovetop?
No.
Make it.
I make my own stuffing, yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, welcome to the Poultry Cast.
Welcome to the Gobblecast.
Yeah, now a question for you.
Yeah.
Turkey the country, Turkey the bird. Which is named after which?
I'd assume that Turkey the country is named after Turkey the bird.
Wrong way around.
Really?
Turkey the bird is named after Turkey the country.
But Turkey the country's name is fairly recent.
Well, yes, in theory. But the Ottoman Turks occupied the Ottoman Empire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they apparently have a turkey fowl, or a type of fowl that exists and is indigenous to the Anatolian area of the world. And when people got to North America, the birds that they found here reminded them a lot of the ones that they had there, so they called them turkey fowl.
Got them.
Yes, gobble.
Gobble.
So yeah, they called them turkey fowl to keep up, because it reminded them a lot of the turkey fowl that's over there. Gobbledygook. Well, let's give thanks for the readings that we have for today.
Yes.
Which are from Genesis, Philippians, and Mark.
No. You are 1 for 3.
Okay. Isaiah.
No. Closer to the beginning.
Exodus.
A little bit further.
Numbers.
A little bit further.
Joshua.
Not that far.
Deuteronomy.
Yeah, there you go.
Deuteronomy, Philippians, and Luke.
Yes. Way to go.
I'm going to cut everything else.
Would you dare?
I'm just going to have me getting it right the first time. Right, good. Yeah, Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy is good, too. It's a very good Thanksgiving passage.
Would you like to spend some time being on the same page today?
Oh, that's nice.
So,
no, we don't get the opportunity to flip pages.
But this is one of my personal pet peeves is when you're doing a Bible study and you say, let's go to Luke chapter 3. And they're like, what page is it on? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. You've all got different Bibles. But in this case, we do. What page is our first reading on?
291.
291. If you've got your Lutheran Bible study Bible at home, and why wouldn't you, turn to page 291 and follow along with us as we come to grips with Deuteronomy.
All right. So Deuteronomy chapter 8, verses 1 through 10.
Oh, it's close to turning a page.
And I thought it would be. The whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers. And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothing did not wear out on you, and your foot did not swell those 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, the Lord your God disciplines you. So you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God by walking in his ways and by fearing him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and springs, flowing out in the valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron and whose hills you can dig copper. And you shall eat and be full, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land he has given you.
Sounds nice?
Sounds nice. Who wouldn't want a fig tree?
You know, figs are... I don't know when the last time any of us had figs, man, outside of a Newton.
You know what? I had a charcuterie board and it had figs on it.
Where were you?
At my house.
Wow. So
It was a birthday present. I didn't buy myself the charcuterie board.
But like you didn't make it at your house. It was
No.
It was a takeout charcuterie board?
Yeah. Like I said, I got it for a birthday present. I think it was from Walnuts.
Oh, yeah. Food so fresh you want to slap it.
Okay.
That was their slogan.
Was it?
Yeah. It's a good slogan.
It's a good slogan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But like we don't spend a lot of time having figs, which is in the Bible, figs were a big deal. They were a pretty fig deal. Doesn't Jesus curse a fig tree at some point and make it die? Yeah. Figs. Big deal for figs.
Big deal.
Well, he looks for figs and there's no figs and he curses the fig tree and it dies. I'm like, wow, okay. Mad about the figs.
Pretty extreme.
Well,
figging.
Man wanted some figs. Now, I don't eat figs very often because figs aren't exactly indigenous to this part of the world.
No, the only time I eat figs, aside from that charcuterie board, is like a fig Newton.
Yeah,
even that's pretty rare.
Yeah. Figs are... it's at the point, actually, where like back in the 1980s, where fig Newtons were the only time I'd ever heard of figs, and I assumed that was just the brand name of the thing. Like I did not know that a fig was a thing.
Totally, yeah.
Because we just don't eat figs, not that often, but they eat figs all the time, and
Nobody gives a fig.
no one, in fact, does give a fig. But like when you've been wandering through the wilderness and you've been just beaking and complaining about the manna for so long, you're like, oh, we detest this worthless food. We like the variety of having leeks and cucumbers and meat pots and whatnot. Then when you're going to a land that has figs and pomegranates and olive trees and honey, this is, and I know people in Canada are like, ew, olives, eh. But honest to God,
some of us don't have your Mediterranean tastes, okay?
Yes.
Back off.
You don't like olives?
I hate olives. We've had this discussion like 10 million times. I don't even like olive oil. I know.
That's a ice
one's a
cold.
spicy take.
That's a cold pressed take, is what that is. That's real weak stuff.
You're gonna go all Popeye on me now?
With spinach? You don't like spinach either?
No, olive oil.
Oh. And the blessings of God are known through the things you see around you every day that you frequently forget to thank God for. Mm-hmm. And that's when you become miserable. As you become miserable and inured to all the good things that are around, you become very cold and calloused. And then, like, it's like with a small child with a tablet or a phone or whatever, that, like, they won't thank you for it, but they'll get real mad when you pull it away.
Oh, tell me about it.
Oh, yeah. That, like, you ever tried to pull a tablet out of a toddler's hand?
Last night, my goodness.
It's a war. Like, I mean, my kids are older than toddler age now, but, like, my younger son will still, like, lawn dart face down into the ground when you're like, okay, time to put your tablet. He goes, and he'll, like, act like he's been shot with a handgun. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And, like, boy, oh boy, like, he just gets lulled into just sort of constant indulgence, and then like when you take that away, like it hurts. Like they're like almost physically injured when you do that. Like they're really bothered by it.
Yep.
And then picture us with our decadence, and we are decadent.
Oh yeah, we just were discussing our opulent foul meals.
Yes, that's FOWL,
I was going
not
to make
FOUL.
that point as well, yeah.
But like it's massively decadent all day, every day. Like look at these very mediocre things that they're eating, olives and figs and pomegranates,
And
stuff
wheat and
that
barley.
Yeah, it's the stuff that like we would like look down on, and be like, ugh.
I'd be like, that's it.
Yeah, really. Like call me back when you have like Pop-Tarts and corn pops and
popcorn
and like just delicious
roast beef.
I was gonna say like a pastrami sandwich or something with like a little sauerkraut, maybe make a Reuben or something, like good stuff.
Good.
You're right, and like we have this all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, like we could go out right now and run to ye olde grocery store and pick up like a fantastically decadent meal in like 10 minutes.
And we would actually bypass the figs and the wheat and the barley. We'd be like,
I mean, unless we wanted a nice hoppy beverage, right?
well, there you go. But like, apart from that, you'd be like, well, bye.
Yeah.
Just walk on. Because who's got the time? Who's got the desire for these things? We're so decadent that these things that the Israelites were rejoicing over are like, oh,
yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, for sure.
And if they were told to give thanks to God for this wonderfully abundant land, hey, do you know how abundant this land is that we live in? Like,
and we take one day a year, right?
One day a year to be like, thanks God, maybe if you feel like it. But like nothing else. We're all like way too busy to give thanks to God for this like extremely fertile world that we find ourselves living in, where we're not like trying to wring some kind of produce out of the land. Like we have way more food than anybody in this country could eat. Like we have way more mineral resources in our land than we could possibly process. Like we're like it's more fresh water than any other country on planet Earth. Like we're doing quite well for ourselves when it comes to all those resources, and we're all like, yeah, but what have you done for me lately?
Well, and even then, it's like, well, but what else?
Yeah.
Right? So we've got all this, but we don't have the opulence of the States, right?
For example,
Yeah.
we could sure use some of their corn pops.
But do you know all the flavors of Mountain Dew that
They got
the
Code
United
Red
States
and Code
has?
Blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, like you're always going to be looking for more opulence unless you take time to thank God for what you have already. If you're like, maybe I could be grateful for what I've got now.
Yeah.
Because something very curious happens to you when you're grateful for what you have is that you stop endlessly seeking after what you can get next. If you're all like, I'm going to enjoy what I have for a minute, spend some time with the stuff that I've got, with the stuff that I was desperate to get that just turned to dust in my hands as soon as I acquired it, maybe go back and visit that again. Maybe realize that the opulence that you have on a daily basis is more than King Solomon could have ever hoped for in his wildest dreams. I know I bring that up a lot, but think about like the junk nonsense that they would have been eating back then. Like if you would have given him one Big Mac, it would have blown his mind forever. Like he would have been like, I've talked about this before. I'm probably gonna put the clip back in again from Bernard and the Genie. Did we talk about this before? Where it's a British film, it's a Christmas movie, where a guy wakes up a genie from being asleep in a lamp for 2,000 years. And he takes him like out in the town in like early 90s London.
Okay.
And they go for ice cream, and he gives the genie an ice cream cone, a strawberry ice cream cone. He takes one bite, and then he runs out into the street and he says, "Hey everybody, you have to get in here right now. They have this stuff that's totally cold and it tastes exactly like strawberries." And Bernard follows him outside. He says, they don't care. It's nothing special to them.
Yeah.
And he just yells, "You're crazy!" to everybody. Like,
Yeah.
like the vast majority of people who have ever lived could not hope for this level of decadence,
for
right?
sure,
And here we are, where we're numb to it. Like we're really numb to it. We're all like, yeah, but what now? And we're numb to it to the point that this moment where Israel is going to enter the promised land, and here's what they're promised, and we're like, that's it?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty weak.
Well, even right now, how's your nose?
A little stuffy.
A little stuffy?
A little stuffy.
Mine is quite clear, but if you had asked me last week how it was around this time, like it was miserable, right?
Yeah.
Like I could breathe out of one nostril, and then I know we've had this conversation before, but that moment where you can breathe out of both nostrils at the same time.
Paradise.
Feels great, but now I'm kind of like, of course.
Yeah, you're over it.
Yeah, whatever, I can
Yeah,
breathe.
It
big deal.
does not take long for you to adjust to feeling normal unless you're like specifically grateful for it. Unless you're saying thank you to the Lord my God for life and health, for the food that we have, for the general opulence that we've got, for the fact that the water that comes out of the tap doesn't kill me. That's a nice treat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And most people that have ever lived couldn't have dreamed of that. Where like you can have warm water. What? What kind of paradise is this?
Yeah. Well, even like my first world problems, right, is that I come to work and the water that comes out of the spigot in the kitchen isn't as cold as I want it to be. Like,
Boo-hoo.
poor baby.
I know.
Yeah.
But here we are. Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Israel had gone through a lot to get to where they were because the people that are going to enter the promised land had only known the desert. Like this was the next generation that was born in the wilderness to inherit the promised land. So like they had never known anything but wandering in the wilderness. So hopefully they won't, but hopefully they'll be grateful and rejoice and serve God and bless his holy name for all the wonderful gifts that he's given them. But you know, it does turn very quickly into, well, what have you done for me lately? And we all want to believe, well, yeah, but if I had everything that I wanted, then I'd thank God. Would you?
No.
Yeah.
All right. So our second reading is from Philippians, and we're going to go against Alex Kalagas's recommendations. We're going to go a little bit longer. I know you're all surprised, right? We're adding more content. That never happens. So we're doing Philippians chapter 4. We're going to start at verse 4 and go through verse 20.
Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Why would they cut that?
I don't know. That's why I say.
Yeah. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at length you have revived your concern for me. You were indeed concerned for me, but you had no opportunity. Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am in to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Yet it was kind of you to share my trouble, and you Philippians yourselves know that in the beginning of the gospel, when I left Macedonia, no church entered into partnership with me, giving and receiving, except you only. Even in Thessalonica, you sent me help for my needs once and again. Not that I seek the gift, but I seek the fruit that increases to your credit. I have received full payment and more. I am well supplied, having received from Ephroditus the gifts you sent, a fragrant offering, a sacrifice acceptable and pleasing to God. And my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. To our God and Father be glory forever and ever. Amen.
It's really nice to actually see that all in its fullness, because there's two very common verses that we often pull out of this passage, right?
Yep,
the one that
4:13 and then
4:4. Yeah.
Oh,
rejoice in the Lord. Again, I say rejoice.
1:4-7.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And again, it's very easy to look at those verses on their own, right? Without any of the context surrounding it. But then, like, even, I'll be honest, I don't really think of the end of this verse or this passage as being connected to those verses, but it's nice to see Paul not just spouting off quotables, but to actually say, this is when it applied to me. When I was going out, you were there to support me, and thanks be to God, to him be the glory forever and ever. Amen.
It's a better bit than we think it is.
It is. Like, it all
It doesn't
really
just go in an
flows
oven
well.
mitt.
No. What?
Oh, I can do all things through him who strengthens me.
Oh, I see what you're saying,
4:13 is on all kinds of kitschy religious stuff. It's on oven mitts and tea towels and hats and bumpus stickus.
Fridge
magnets, shoes, like shoelaces. They have those,
I'm sure they do, yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's fine, but it does put it in a vacuum where you have to understand that Paul's not saying that Jesus Christ gives him superpowers to do whatever.
No.
He's saying that he is able to endure both hardship and abundance. Mm-hmm. And hey, guess what we need help with?
Yeah, it's not the abundance. We don't need to attain abundance.
No, we need help dealing with our abundance.
Yeah.
Boy, do we.
Yeah.
I don't think we've learned the secret of living in, what does he say here? Of facing plenty. Mm-hmm. That's like, in many ways, plenty has been harsher on us than want.
Well, and we've only begun to notice it. And again, I know this is a point we've made a gazillion times, but through 2020, that was the only time we were really faced with a lack of anything, right?
Yeah.
When you went to the store and you couldn't get your flour. When you went and you were like, oh no, I only have one package of toilet paper, I better go get 7 more. Oh no, I can't get 7 more. Oh no.
Well, because they were out or they were rationing it. And we're like, we're rationing? What?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, we of our generation have never faced that before.
Did you ever watch the show Dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there was
Not the Mama.
Yeah, that show. There's a bit there involving these little things called grab delights, which were just like little small furry things that they would eat. And there are 2 left. That was the only 2 left in the world. And the grab delights talked to Robbie, the son, who had to write a report on. This was like a conservation episode, and he had to write a report on conservation, and the grab delights told him, hey, if you take everything that you have and then it's gone, there's nothing left. And his dad, Earl, instead told him, no, there will always be more. That's what the word more means. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, that.
Why is it good to be big? Well, we get to eat whoever we want. No offense.
Oh, none taken.
However, if we don't plan for the future, there won't be any more food. That would be the cost.
What do you mean, no more food? There's always more. That's what more means.
Oh, dear.
Imagine that these are all the grapes in the world.
Yeah? So?
Now, suppose that you eat all the grapes.
Okay. Okay, now what?
Now, suppose you want grapes tomorrow.
Well, I'll go to the market and get some.
But those were all the grapes in the world.
Well, then I'll have to eat something else.
Oh, well, you rule the world.
A world without grapes.
So, you're saying if we eat them all, there won't be any more?
I think he understands.
Ah,
Huh. I can stretch that to 500 words easy.
Or maybe he doesn't.
You guys can help me with my homework every day. Or at least until Mom and Dad's anniversary.
But we're assuming, or we have been assuming for a long time, that there will always be more. That's what more means. And then we were shocked to find out that there wasn't. And we all acted like the toddler with the iPad pulled away from it. We're like, wait, what? We can't just have whatever we want all the time? Guys, for most of human history, you can't get whatever you want all the time. For the vast majority of human existence, people scraped by with nothing. And that wasn't even that long ago. I know we've talked this to death too, but if you go to the Western Development Museum up in Yorkton, and it's got like these examples of like, it's just like these sod houses or like these mud houses that were built on the Canadian prairies. That wasn't like 5,000 years ago. That was like 110. Like that's like in that time where you lived in a house made of dirt here in Canada, in this general area. And now we're all like, what? I can't get whatever I want whenever I want it. This sucks.
Well, and even if you look at recipes from like the 1940s, which again is less than 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And they are using up every single piece of whatever they can find, right? Like it's a potato peel pie or something, right?
Nose to tail cooking,
Yeah.
where you didn't just have the choicest cuts of meat, man. You had to do
No,
with all the
use
organ
nose
meat.
to the tail, yeah.
Yeah. But if you go to these like museums, like the Ukrainian village just outside of Edmonton, or to the Western Development Museums here or whatever, and like you look at these houses where people were like living in sod shacks and they had dirt everywhere all the time forever. They still got Bibles.
Yeah.
They still got Bibles. They still got pictures of Jesus up. And like if they were from one of the more Catholic parts of the world, there's a little Polish house, pictures of Mary and rosaries everywhere and whatnot, because boy, these people were amazingly grateful for even their like subsistence level farming, right? Like we don't have that much, but thanks be to God for what we've got. We haven't learned the secret of being in plenty. Like being in
Right.
plenty is hurting us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shouldn't be, but it is. Like part of the deal with saying grace before meals is you're acknowledging the source of your food and your sustenance. And Martin Luther would have you do that both before and after meals. So like saying thanks for the meal and then returning thanks to God after you're done, so that you never become too complacent and thinking that the food is yours by divine fiat.
Right. Well, and I mean, that's our big danger right now, is why we've moved so far away from God, is because we don't think we need him, right? We have everything that we need. Why do we need God?
It's that bit from The Simpsons where Bart says, like, they ask Bart to say grace, and he says, well, we bought this food ourselves and cooked it ourselves, so thanks for nothing.
Yep.
Right. That you would assume that that's where we're at right now, where we're like, well, yeah, well, we made this.
Bart, would you like to say grace?
Dear God, we pay for all this stuff ourselves, so thanks for nothing.
This is ours now. And Paul, we have moved through a period of scarcity, but not like genuine, like we're starving in the street scarcity. So we still need to work on living with abundance. We still need to work on what that is to be a Christian who has their needs met. Mm-hmm. What is it to be a Christian who does not have to worry about where their next meal is coming from? What is it to live as a Christian who is in general decadence? Have you learned that secret? Mm-hmm. Have you been able to give thanks to God? Does God strengthen you to face luxury? And that's a hard question for a people for whom every day is Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that I have observed is that if you come across somebody who has had wealth, right? That it comes to a point where all they want to do is share it. Where if you have somebody who is like middle class-ish, who is like trying to get as much as they can to kind of work themselves up, they don't want to give anything, right? When you get to the point where you have this abundance, it's like, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to try and store it away so that you build yourself up, or are you going to give it away because you have so much of it at that point that it doesn't really benefit you anymore to continue to build up these stores, right?
Yeah, like that guy in the parable where he has that big barn. He's like, I'm going to gather it all in. It's going to be all great. And it's like, you fool, your life will be demanded from you this night. Yeah, well. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Yeah. And Paul is going to be pretty keen on you not just giving thanks for one day a year, but giving thanks always. Rejoice always.
Rejoice
Again,
always.
I will say rejoice. But like to be mindful every day of the blessings you've received, and to give thanks to God for them, and then to never get all hardened over in your heart like hard-hearted Pharaoh, and to assume that what you have is just yours, because why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I was first reading it, sounded almost as though somebody was just using like word search in Microsoft Word and found the word Thanksgiving. Was like, okay, good, check. Let's use this, because it's where it should start off, according to the Alex Klages manual. Says it starts off by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. But you think of what that actually means, because prayer and supplication, you're asking for things, but you're doing it alongside with thanksgiving. You're not just asking separate from giving thanks. The two are together.
It's like the Lord's Prayer, where you've got thanksgiving and requests bound up together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Gospel.
Gospel.
Luke.
Yeah.
Luke's a good gospel.
It is a good gospel. Luke chapter 17, verses 11 through 19.
What
And
page
again,
is that on?
1752.
Ah.
No turning of pages, I'm afraid.
Carry on.
On the way to Jerusalem, he was passing along between Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered a village, he was met by 10 lepers, who stood at a distance and lifted up their voices, saying, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. When he saw them, he said to them, Go and show yourselves to the priests. And as they went, they were cleansed. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. And he fell on his face at Jesus' feet, giving him thanks. Now he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus answered, Were not 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner? And he said to him, Rise and go on your way. Your faith has made you well.
It's not very long.
But it's pretty impactful, isn't it?
Well, was no one found to give thanks to God except this foreigner? I get the feeling that the people who come to this country from the outside have a way different appreciation of everything than the people that were born here and raised here, like yourself, like myself, where we get pretty accustomed to things being pretty great, and we're like,
Well, and it reminds me of even the Israelites from the Old Testament, right? Where they just assumed that God would give them everything that they needed. Like even in a circumstance where they had the manna and the quail, which you and I, looking back, it's like, that's pretty miraculous that you received this mystery, flaky goodness.
what is it?
Yeah, there you go, manna. And quail just like appeared from the sky and you had everything that you needed. Like, to us, again, looking from the outside, it's miraculous. But for them, they're like, yeah, but what about the meat pots?
What about the cucumbers? What about the leeks and garlic?
There's always something more to be desired. Although God takes care of their needs, what else?
What else? Yeah. It's always what else, isn't it?
Always what else?
Always what else? And like after he heals the 10, only one comes back to say thanks.
Like, what else? Right?
Yeah, the rest are like, oh, I got this now. Great. Now my brain has adjusted to this being the natural state of things, moving right along. But when Paul enjoins you to be grateful and thankful in all circumstances, this is part of it. You've just been healed by God of a deadly disease. Maybe give thanks to God. Yeah. Maybe we are...
Well, not only a deadly disease, but you've been moved out of the social class you were in, right? Like you are living an entirely new life.
Well, it's life-changing.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Where wonderful, amazing things are happening, and you're like, yeah, let's give thanks to God. It's awesome.
as opposed to just saying, well, I went, I asked, I was healed, so I deserve this.
I deserve this is a great statement. Where they don't come back. And I know there's like somebody will say, well, we don't know what they did. Maybe they returned to give thanks to God at the temple. I'm like, yeah, maybe. But
Or
if they
maybe
did, but if they
not.
did that, and it was important to the text, it'd probably tell you.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is that the text is written after the fact. So there's always the opportunity to add on at the end, oh, and then the other 9 came back as well.
Right, like it's a bit scummy to make the argument from silence to say, well, we don't know they didn't. Yeah, thanks. We also don't know that they weren't riding unicycles either. But if it was important to the text that they were unicycling lepers, it would probably tell you that.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Well, I mean, yeah, me neither. Cool. Return and give thanks. That's it. And don't, like, the more you give thanks, the more grateful you will be. It is a self-fulfilling loop where if you're not grateful, you won't be. But if you are grateful, you'll start to be grateful for more and more things, because you'll start to really take, and like, from being in a relationship yourself, or anybody who is in a relationship, one of the worst things, or like Mother's Day or Father's Day or something like that, one of the worst things that can happen is when you just get taken for granted, and like people stop appreciating what you do because they're just so used to it. Like, of course the clothes are clean. Why wouldn't they be? Of course the food's here. Why wouldn't it be? And the only reward you get is not being punished, right? Like no one's happy that you do anything, but they'll get mad if you don't.
Right.
And that's our relationship with God, right? Like, we're not happy about anything he gives us, but we really get mad when it's gone.
Well, and I mean, this is the beginning point of a lot of falling away from God, right? Is that everything is going fine, and then tragedy happens, and you're like, why did you let this happen, God?
Where was God on all
As
this?
opposed to like the flat line where he was taking care of you. He's still taking care of you when you plummet, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But nobody remembers the flat line, right? It's only the plummet that they remember.
Well, because who cares?
Yeah.
I'm not going to remember all the thousands of times that there was food on the table for me that was cooked just the way I like. I'm only going to remember the one time you didn't do it.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. It should be like a daily gratitude thing where you actually do take the time out of your busy day, your busy schedule, to render thanks, not just to the people that do what you need them to do, but also to God who's behind all of it. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who's placed you in this wonderful land overflowing figs and
the God of
pomegranates.
creation, who created the very things that you have.
Yeah, and made them taste good. For example.
Indeed.
Well, I know, and I've said this to the youth group before, but hey, the food you eat doesn't have to taste good.
No.
Like you...
And even, again, I know I'm going back to the manna 10 gazillion times, but the manna was sweet. It tasted good.
Yeah, well, they still got sick of it.
And they still got sick of it.
Yeah. Whatever, man.
Yeah.
Very, very disappointing. And when you're looking at us and the manna that we receive, which is not like flaky bread from heaven, but really all of our needs being met all the time, we should be more grateful than we are. And Thanksgiving is a good time to talk about that, to be grateful for life, health, family, friends, resources, and a God who is very near to us, and to be grateful for that, not just the one time. In the same way that if it's your mother or your father or whatever, not just being grateful to them for like one day and saying, thanks, Dad, appreciate
Happy
that.
Father's Day.
Happy
Yeah.
Father's Day, bye. And then like never being grateful ever again. Like your relationship with him will be improved, but also your outlook towards him will be better.
Yeah.
The more grateful you are. Is that a good place to leave it?
I think so.
Okay.
Let's give thanks.
Let's give thanks. Gracious Lord, today we don't ask you for things. Instead, today we thank you for things, for life and health, for family and friends, for, as it says in the words of Martin Luther, for clothing and shoes. All the things we forget to thank you for because we're too busy using them, enjoying them, and having them be part of our lives. We thank you for all of those. You've blessed us richly and abundantly with far more than we could ever ask for or hope for, and we need to have help in being grateful for that. Thank you for what you've given us. Thank you for your Son who shed his blood for us, and thank you for the eternity you've prepared for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us on our Shepcast today. We look forward to seeing you at our next Shepcast.
And we'll see you then.